Colonel Martinez had commanded this base for 8 years. He'd seen mechanics, he'd seen pilots, and he'd seen the clear line between them. So when the woman in coveralls approached his grounded Apache and asked for clearance to fly, he almost laughed. Almost. Until he saw the look in her eyes, the look every pilot recognized, the look of someone who belonged in the sky. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let me tell you about Chief Isabella "Izzy" Martinez. No relation to the colonel, despite the shared name. 31 years old, divorced, no kids by choice. The Army had been her family for 15 years. At 0600 hours every morning, Chief Martinez was already elbow deep in an AH-64D Apache longbow, the $32 million helicopter that could level a city block or save a pinned-down squad with equal precision. Those hands. Watch those hands work. 15 years of muscle memory. Hands that could diagnose engine trouble just by feeling the vibration through the airframe. Hands that knew every bolt, every wire, every system component. But to everyone at Fort Campbell's 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, the Night Stalkers, she was just Izzy, the quiet Hispanic woman who never talked about her past. "Chief, this transmission's making a weird noise. Izzy, can you check this hydraulic pressure reading?" "Martinez, what's your take on this engine vibration?" Every question found its way to her. Because if there was an Apache problem at Fort Campbell, Izzy had the answer. Always. But nobody ever wondered why she sometimes paused when walking past the cockpits. That 3-second hesitation, the way her hand would unconsciously trace flight control patterns when she thought no one was looking, or why she kept a worn photo in her toolbox, herself in flight gear, standing beside an Apache in desert camouflage. The photo was always face down. "Chief Martinez, this engine's ready for pre-flight," said Specialist Wilson. "Roger. Lieutenant Johnson flying today?" "Yes, ma'am. He's requesting you personally sign off on the maintenance log." Izzy nodded. Johnson was a solid pilot, careful, respectful of the aircraft, the kind of pilot who understood that his life depended on her work, the kind of pilot she used to be. The memories came in fragments sometimes, desert landscapes rushing past at 90 feet, radio chatter, Apache lead, you have friendlies danger close. The weight of responsibility for ground troops who needed her precision more than her fear. 217 combat hours, 43 successful missions, 0 aircraft lost under her command, call sign Steel Angel. But records don't mean much when you wake up screaming at 0300, when every helicopter sound triggers fight or flight responses, when the sky that once felt like home becomes a source of anxiety, attacks, medical discharge, combat stress reaction, the clinical term for what happens when even the best warriors reach their breaking point. "Chief Martinez!" The colonel's voice cut through the hangar like a blade. Every mechanic snapped to attention. "Sir!" Izzy stood, quickly wiping hydraulic fluid from her hands. "Chief, I need you in the command center, now." "Of course, sir." The walk felt longer than usual. Izzy's mind raced through possibilities. Equipment failure, safety violation. Her hands were steady, but her pulse wasn't. The command center hummed with controlled urgency. Radio communications crackling, officers analyzing digital maps showing real-time aircraft positions. "Chief Martinez," the colonel said, "we have a situation. Sit down." Izzy sat, hands on her knees. 15 years of military bearing kicked in automatically. At 0830 hours, 2 Apaches departed for reconnaissance mission Zulu 7. Standard border patrol, routine as they come. Last radio contact was 0923 hours. Izzy's stomach tightened. 90 minutes of radio silence was never routine. "Last known position, sir? Grid 341-528, vicinity of Rocky Creek Canyon. But here's where it gets complicated." The radio crackled with static, then a strained voice. Campbell Base, this is Apache 27, emergency traffic. We have a bird down. Repeat, we have Apache 2-1 down, and crew injured." Colonel Martinez grabbed the handset. "Apache 27, Campbell Base, give me your full situation report." "Sir, Apache 2-1 suffered catastrophic engine failure during low-level navigation training. Auto-rotation landing in Rocky Creek Canyon. Pilot Major Stevens unconscious with head trauma. Co-pilot Sergeant Kim conscious but suspected broken ribs. They need immediate medical evacuation. Can you extract them with your aircraft? Negative, sir. Canyon's too narrow for safe landing. We're talking about a precision insertion into a space maybe 60 meters wide with 25-knot crosswinds. I don't have the experience for this kind of flying. The colonel looked around the room. Options, people. Who do we have for precision rescue operations? Major Thompson consulted his roster. Sir, we have 3 pilots certified for high-risk extraction. Captain Jenkins is on emergency leave. Family crisis. Chief Warrant Officer Rodriguez deployed to Syria. Lieutenant Martinez. Food poisoning. He's down for at least 48 hours. What about Fort Knox? Campbell? Anyone within range? Minimum transit time as 6 hours. Stevens has traumatic brain injury. He might not have 6 hours. Izzy sat quietly, but her mind was racing. Rocky Creek Canyon, grid 341-528. She knew that terrain intimately. Mission designation Copper Snake, 18 months into her second deployment. High-value target extraction, 30 miles behind enemy lines. Canyon approach under fire. Auto-rotation practice turned real when they took an RPG near miss. She'd put an Apache down in that exact canyon, twice, once under enemy fire. Sir, Izzy found herself saying, those coordinates, I know that terrain. Chief, you're a maintenance supervisor, outstanding at your job, but this is pilot business. Yes, sir, but sir, I've landed in that canyon before. The room went quiet. Major Thompson looked confused. The operations officer raised an eyebrow. What did you say, Chief? Sir, I can extract Stevens and Kim from Rocky Creek Canyon. I've done precision landings in that exact location. Chief Martinez, you're aircraft maintenance. I don't understand what you're telling me. Izzy's hands weren't trembling anymore. For the first time in 3 years, everything felt clear. Colonel, before I was a maintenance chief, I was a pilot. Warrant Officer 3 Isabella Martinez, call sign Steel Angel, 217 combat hours, 43 successful missions, including 2 extractions from Rocky Creek Canyon. Complete silence. You could hear the air conditioning cycling. Are you telling me, the colonel said slowly, that for 2 years we've had a qualified Apache pilot working in maintenance? Yes, sir. Why the hell didn't you tell us? Because, sir, I retired for medical reasons, combat stress reaction. After my last mission, I thought maintaining aircraft would be enough. I thought staying on the ground was safer. The radio interrupted. Campbell Base, Stevens's vitals are dropping. Blood pressure falling, pulse irregular. We need that medevac immediately. Chief, when was your last flight? 3 years, 2 months, 14 days ago, sir. Current medical clearance? Expired, sir. But my hands remember every control input. My muscle memory is intact. The colonel studied her face. Behind the maintenance chief, he could see something else. The steel that had earned her call sign. Stevens is 26 years old. Has 2 daughters. Yes, sir. Ages 4 and 6. Chief Martinez, are you absolutely certain you can safely extract Stevens and Kim from that canyon? Sir, I can put this bird down in that canyon with 6 inches of rotor clearance. I've done it before under enemy fire. I can do it again. And you're willing to risk your own life. Izzy thought about Stevens, 26, 2 little girls who needed their father to come home. Roger that, sir. Someone needs to bring him home. The colonel stood. Command decision. Let's go save a pilot. When they reached the hangar, everything stopped. Mechanics froze mid-task. Technicians looked up from their work. The base commander walking with Chief Martinez toward a ready Apache meant something big was happening. Sergeant Collins, the colonel called. Sir, is Apache 28 ready for immediate departure? Yes, sir. Full fuel load, all systems green, weapons safe, medical kit aboard. Outstanding. Chief Martinez will be pilot in command. Collins stared. Sir, Chief Martinez is our maintenance supervisor. Not today, Sergeant. Izzy approached Apache 28. Her hands touched the fuselage, not like a mechanic checking for defects, but like a pilot greeting her aircraft. The metal was familiar, alive under her touch. Chief, Collins whispered, what's going on? Collins, I need you to trust me. I know exactly what I'm doing. Her pre-flight inspection was different now. Not the methodical check of a maintenance supervisor, but the focused assessment of a pilot whose life would depend on every system. External inspection, rotor blade integrity, no nicks or cracks. Engine intakes clear. Weapon systems safed. Landing gear hydraulics responsive. Jesus, Wilson muttered to Collins. Look how she moves around that bird. That's not maintenance, that's pilot stuff. Izzy climbed into the pilot seat. The moment her hands touched the controls, 15 years of training flooded back. Collective felt natural under her left hand. Cyclic responded to her right, rudder pedals perfectly positioned. This was home. This was who she was. Ground crew, standing by for engine start, she announced over the comm. Standing by, Chief, Collins replied, still confused but professional. Engine 1, starting sequence. The familiar whine of the T-700D-701C turboshaft. 37 years of flying Apaches, and that sound still gave her chills. Power building. Turbine temperature rising to optimal range. Engine 2, starting sequence. Both engines now online. Hydraulic pressure normal. Electrical systems green. Flight controls responsive. Rotor engagement bringing online. The four-blade main rotor system began its rotation, slowly building from nothing to operational RPM. The distinctive Apache rotor wash filled the hangar. Campbell Tower, Apache 28, requesting immediate departure for medical evacuation mission, grid 341-528. Apache 28, cleared for immediate takeoff, fly heading 180, contact departure on 327.4. Good luck out there. Izzy pulled collective. The Apache lifted smoothly from the hangar floor, and everyone watching realized they had never known Chief Martinez at all. My God, Collins said, watching the departing aircraft. She's not flying that Apache. She's dancing with it. Inside the cockpit, Izzy felt 3 years of anxiety melting away. Clear sky above, familiar controls responding to her thoughts. A mission that mattered. This was who she was born to be. Apache 27, this is Apache 28 inbound your location. What's your current status on the ground? 2-8, this is 2-7. Where did you come from? We were told no qualified pilots were available. Details later, 2-7. Give me a tactical picture. Roger. Stevens is unconscious. Shallow breathing, possible skull fracture. Kim is conscious but suspected internal injuries. Landing zone is extremely challenging. Canyon walls rising 200 feet, crosswinds gusting to 30 knots. Landing area maybe 60 meters in diameter. Izzy looked down at the approaching canyon. Rocky Creek. She remembered every rock formation, every wind pattern that funneled through those walls. 2-7, I have visual on your position. Beginning approach. 2-8, be advised. This is not a standard approach. Wind shear is unpredictable, and the clearance is minimal. Are you absolutely sure about this? 2-7, I've done this before. Talk me through the winds. Izzy began her descent. Canyon walls rising on both sides, clearance decreasing with every foot of altitude lost, rotor wash bouncing off rock faces, creating complex turbulence patterns she had to read and compensate for. Left pedal input to counter wind shear from the eastern wall, slight aft cyclic to maintain approach angle. Collective down to control descent rate. This was precision flying. This was art. 50 feet altitude, she announced. Sudden downdraft caught the aircraft. 10-foot altitude loss in 2 seconds. Collective up, engine power response immediate, recovery smooth and controlled. 30 feet, crosswind gust from the canyon mouth. Apache shifted toward the western wall, right cyclic input, gentle but firm. Rotor blade clearance now 15 feet. 20 feet, power settling into ground effect. Rotor wash creating dust clouds, reducing visibility. Flying by instruments and instinct now. 10 feet, coming to a hover. Perfect control. 64,000 pounds of aircraft held in precise position by will and skill. Touchdown. The Apache settled onto rocky ground. Engines at flight idle, rotors turning, ready for immediate departure with patients aboard. Son of a bitch, came the voice over radio. 2-8, that was the most beautiful piece of flying I've ever seen. Who the hell are you? Chief Martinez, aircraft maintenance, Fort Campbell. A negative, no maintenance chief flies like that. Izzy smiled for the first time in 3 years. Steel Angel 2-7. Call sign Steel Angel. There was a pause. Then, Steel Angel? The Steel Angel? Desert Storm legend? Roger that. Now let's get Stevens home to his daughters. Loading Stevens took 6 minutes of precise coordination. The flight medic worked with practiced efficiency. Head trauma stabilized with C-collar, IV line established in his left arm, vitals monitored on portable equipment. Sergeant Kim helped despite his suspected broken ribs, refusing a stretcher until Stevens was secured. "Chief," Kim said as they loaded his unconscious pilot, "I don't know who you are, but that was something else. Just doing my job, Sergeant." "No, ma'am, that wasn't just flying. That was art." "Patient secured and ready for transport," the flight medic reported. "Stevens's blood pressure stabilizing, but we need to move." "Roger." Lifting off immediately. The extraction was textbook perfect. Straight up between canyon walls, each foot of altitude a testament to 15 years of training. Clear sky opened above like a doorway to freedom, to life, to the future Stevens's daughters would have with their father. As they climbed, Izzy felt something she hadn't experienced in 3 years. Complete peace. This was who she was meant to be. This was home. The 22-minute flight to Fort Campbell felt both eternal and instantaneous. Radio chatter filled the headset, medical team preparations, surgery room readiness, family notifications. Stevens's wife was being contacted. His daughters would know Daddy was coming home. Campbell Medical, Apache 2-8, 2 minutes out with 2 urgent patients. Stevens unconscious, possible skull fracture. Kim conscious with suspected internal injuries. Apache 2-8, Trauma Bay 1 prepared for Stevens, Bay 2 for Kim. Surgical team standing by. The landing was silk smooth. Stevens was rushed to surgery within 3 minutes of touchdown, a coordinated dance of medical professionals who knew that seconds mattered. Kim walked to his own gurney, still insisting he was fine. As the wounded disappeared into the hospital, Izzy completed her shutdown checklist. Each switch position memorized, each gauge reading verified, engines winding down with their characteristic whistle, rotors slowing through their natural cycle to a stop. Mission accomplished, lives saved. Aircraft returned safely, but this time, she didn't want to leave the cockpit. For the first time in 3 years, she felt like she was exactly where she belonged. Chief Martinez. The colonel was waiting beside the aircraft. Along with what looked like half the base command staff, word had traveled fast. "Sir," Izzy climbed down, suddenly aware that everything had changed. That was exceptional flying. Precision under pressure that I haven't seen in 20 years of command. "Thank you, sir." "Walk with me. We need to talk." They walked in silence for a moment before the colonel spoke again. 2 years, Chief. 2 years we could have been utilizing your expertise. Why didn't you tell us who you were?" Izzy was quiet for a long moment. How do you explain PTSD to someone who hasn't lived it? How do you describe the nightmares, the panic attacks, the overwhelming sense that you've lost the person you used to be? "Sir, after my last deployment, I was broken. Medically discharged for combat stress reaction. I thought maintaining aircraft would be enough. I thought I could serve without having to face the sky again. What changed your mind today?" "Stevens, sir. 26 years old, 2 daughters ages 4 and 6. I couldn't let him die because I was afraid to remember who I used to be." The colonel nodded slowly. He'd seen too many good soldiers struggle with invisible wounds. "Chief, I'm going to ask you something, and I want you to think carefully before you answer. Would you consider returning to flight status, full medical evaluation, psychological clearance, recertification training, the whole process?" Izzy looked back at the Apache, sitting quietly on the tarmac. $32 million of the most advanced helicopter ever built. But to her, it was more than that. It was freedom. It was purpose. It was who she was. "Sir, I'd like that very much." "Outstanding. Report to medical at 0800 tomorrow morning. We'll start the process immediately." "Roger that, sir." As the colonel walked away, Izzy turned back toward the hangar. Collins and the entire maintenance crew were waiting, looking at her with expressions that mixed awe with confusion. "Chief?" Collins said hesitantly. "So, you're really a pilot? Like, a real pilot?" Izzy smiled, the first genuine smile anyone had seen from her in years. "I'm both, Collins. I fix engines and I fly them. Always have been. I just forgot for a while." "Damn, Chief," Wilson said. "No wonder you always knew exactly what was wrong with these birds." "Yeah? Turns out when you've flown over 200 combat hours, you learn to recognize when something's not right." Sergeant Martinez, no relation, but they'd joked about the name before, stepped forward. "Chief, what do we call you now?" Izzy thought about it. "Still, Chief. Still your maintenance supervisor. But now I might be flying some of these birds again too. 6 weeks later, Chief Isabella Martinez received full medical clearance for return to flight status. The psychological evaluation had been thorough but positive. Her PTSD was managed, her skills intact, her motivation clear. Dual role assignment, maintenance supervisor and senior pilot. It was unprecedented, but then again, so was she. Major Stevens made a complete recovery. The skull fracture healed cleanly. His cognitive function returned to normal. 4 months later, he sought out the woman who saved his life. The meeting was simple. Stevens found Izzy in the hangar working on an Apache transmission. "Chief Martinez," she looked up. "Major Stevens, good to see you up and around." "Ma'am, I wanted to thank you for what you did, for bringing me home." Izzy wiped her hands on a rag. "Just doing my job, Major." "No, ma'am. What you did, that wasn't just a job. That was a calling." He handed her an envelope. Inside were 2 drawings, stick figures of helicopters drawn in crayon by small hands. From Emma and Sarah. They wanted to thank the angel who brought Daddy home. Izzy felt tears she hadn't shed in years. Tell them their daddy is a hero, and that heroes always come home. Sometimes the line between who we are and who we were isn't as clear as we think. Sometimes we just need the right moment to remember where we truly belong. For Chief Martinez, that moment came when someone needed saving, and she remembered that she belonged in the sky. Her call sign was Steel Angel, and angels are meant to fly. 6 months later, the story had grown beyond Fort Campbell, beyond Chief Martinez, beyond one impossible rescue in a narrow canyon. At the Army Aviation Center of Excellence, a new program had launched, Project Steel Angel, named after the call sign that had become legend. Young female pilots gathered around flight simulators, learning precision flying techniques that had once been considered impossible. "Today we're studying the Rocky Creek Canyon Rescue," announced Captain Sarah Chen, the program's lead instructor. "This maneuver has been added to our advanced curriculum because one pilot proved it could be done." The students didn't know that Chief Martinez herself had helped write the training manual. Her techniques, her approach angles, her understanding of wind patterns in narrow terrain, all of it now part of official Army doctrine. But Izzy preferred it that way. Recognition was never the point. Saving lives was. Back at Fort Campbell, the maintenance hangar had become something different. Young female mechanics sought assignments there specifically to work under Chief Martinez. They came to learn about Apache systems, but they left understanding something more valuable. "Chief," asked Specialist Rodriguez, a 22-year-old mechanic from Texas, "how do you know if you're meant for something bigger?" Izzy looked up from the engine she was calibrating. 6 months ago, she would have deflected the question. Today, she saw an opportunity. "Rodriguez, what do you hear when this engine runs?" The young specialist listened carefully. "Sounds normal to me, Chief." "Listen deeper." Rodriguez closed her eyes, focusing. After a moment, her eyes opened wide. "There's a slight vibration in the secondary rotor bearing." "Good. You're not just hearing the engine, you're understanding it." Izzy wiped her hands on a rag. "That's how you know. When you stop just doing the job and start understanding what it really means." Word had spread through military networks. Applications to the 160th had increased by 40% among qualified women. The Fort Campbell effect, some called it. Others knew the real reason. Chief Martinez had become proof that potential doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it hides in coveralls, working quietly until the moment it's needed most. Major Stevens had returned to full flight status 3 months after his rescue. But every family dinner began the same way, with a moment of silence for the angel who brought Daddy home. His daughters Emma and Sarah had decided they wanted to be pilots when they grew up. Like the lady who saved Daddy, they told anyone who would listen. Stevens never corrected them. He understood that some stories are too important to diminish with technical details. Chief Isabella Martinez still fixed engines, but now she flew them too. The dual role had become a symbol throughout the military. That service comes in many forms, and heroes aren't always where you expect to find them. Her call sign was painted on 3 different aircraft now, not for glory, but as a reminder, for the young women who would follow, for the mechanics who might be pilots, for anyone who had ever been told they were just something. Sometimes angels don't announce themselves with trumpets. Sometimes they just ask for clearance to fly. The impact of hidden heroes extends far beyond their single moment of revelation. They inspire, they teach, and they prove that extraordinary often hides in ordinary until the world needs it most. This story is dedicated to every woman who has served in silence, waiting for her moment to soar.